Greetings, friends, and welcome to the Haunted Pumpkin. Today, as you'll probably see by the thumbnail, we are building a pumpkin vine, but that can be expanded and is really cheap to make. So, right off the bat, on my website, you are going to find that I ran out of paper. Look at that. You're going to find on my website these templates. When you see them, there's going to be leaf marks on them, so you know where you kind of need to put the veins when you're actually going to go do this. Now, you can leave these just as paper and use them to trace onto your lovely EVA foam. But since you're going to be doing a lot of leaves, I really suggest you transfer this to a little bit thicker of a card, or even like what I'm doing is I'm making a permanent wood template, which is just as simple as you put down the first side, draw around it, flip it over, draw the other side, and then you can get rid of your paper template and you don't need it anymore. And then using magic, you go through and you cut out your template. See how awesome that was? It's almost like I pre-planned that. Then using your lovely new template, you see this one's going to be great because this will last me forever. I can use it for whenever I need to do leaves. Now, on Amazon or pretty much anywhere, you're going to find this 9x12 EVA foam. It's like just craft foam. It's really thin, and it's what we're going to be using to be making all our leaves. And of course, the template, you'll put it down, ballpoint pen, draw around it, and you will have your leaf template. Now, this is actually built in such a way that you're able to do a big leaf and a small leaf, if I did everything right, out of the exact same piece of foam. Well, that's going to be tight, but it will work. It's built so there's two different styles of leaves that you can do whatever one you want, but they're both built to come out of the same piece of foam, so there's little waste. You know me, I don't like to waste stuff. So I'm going to quickly cut this out, and then we're going to talk about using a wood burning kit or wood burning knife. What is that actually? A wood burning pen, we'll call it that, to do the actual detail on these leaves. Okay, see you in a few. Now, once you have this leaf cut out, you'll notice that I did not go perfect to the outline. You want deviation in these leaves. You want it to look a little bit different each time, and even go to the point, like I like to do, is after the fact you've got the leaf cut out, go and take out some random notches from the edge of the leaf so it looks like it has had growing over time and the outcome is always random. It goes a long way to making these look like they are actual leaves. And you can go as far as you want to get these to where you need them, but for now, this is where we're going to stop. Now, hopefully, we're up to temperature. So, what I'm going to suggest you do is this wood burning kit, you can pretty much buy it at any hobby store, and it's just such a good thing to have around, and it's really good for melting this EVA foam. So I'm going to quickly zoom in here. Hopefully I hit the right button. Now, you'll want to practice. What I find is you want to run at about a 45-degree angle, and you start light, and if you pick it up, you can see how your line actually fades over time. The harder you push, the deeper your line is. But you got to be careful, because if you get carried away, you can burn right through the foam. You can see the impact from it there. Now, this is what we're going to do. Do this in a ventilated area or wear a mask, because you are burning EVA foam and it's not the best stuff to breathe. So I'm going to get going here. I'm going to do this as you watch and enjoy. Now, you can see that I've got all of the detail done on this leaf. Now, just a few things that when you are working with the wood burning iron, I'm going to zoom back out here. When you're working with a wood burning iron, hopefully that was in the vision most of the time, you want to always be pulling towards you because it gives you a lot more control of the actual, how deep your texture goes. Now, once you've got it to this point, you're going to take the iron and you're going to, this is the one where you get a bit more smoke. This is optional. You go right around the outside edge. No, it's not a perfect art form. You want it to be a bit random. Because what it does is it gives your leaf an outline and just makes it look that much cooler. Just careful not to burn yourself with that knife or with the soldering or the wood burning pen because it's bloody hot. Not that I've actually done it yet. That'll come up later on when I'm doing my hot glue. So yeah, you're just going to go through and I'm going to finish doing this up. So there is our finished leaf, but we're not quite done here yet. The final step we want to do is using a heat gun. This is optional really, but I like to do it because it looks cool. So I took a 2x4. You can use anything, a plastic pipe or whatever, and I sawed this down to a bit of a, an arc. Because what that makes sure is that when I heat up the foam, that I'll be able to push it down over this buck and have it look proper. So I'm going to plug this in and I'll show you exactly how I go about this. I'm going to move all my paper out of the way because heat guns and paper are just not one of those things you like to mix. Okay, here we go. So you place your foam over the buck like this, turn it on, and I'll just be quiet and let some music play or just let you listen to the sweet, sweet sound of a hot air gun. And there we go. What that heat gun does is it's got multiple effects here. If you look at the back of this, the surface is mostly matte. You flip it over now, you'll see that the surface now has a bit of a shine to it like a real leaf. Because what it's doing is melting the surface and getting it all sealed. And then it allows you, if you want to, you can heat up her specific spots to get it to bend to where you want it. Be random here because you don't want every leaf to be just flat. And this is what this step of the process is doing, is it's making it go from a flat leaf to a finished leaf. Okay. I'm going to quickly go grab my wire and my hot glue gun and we'll go over how we get this leaf ready and finished. Now this next step we'll be actually repeating when we go do the bigger vines. So first thing you're going to need is some wire. This is actually 16 and a half gauge, 325 feet, but it's a rebar tie wire. You can find this in almost any hardware store. But any wire around 16 gauge will do. You just want it to be strong enough to hold shape, but bendable enough by hand. And this stuff comes in huge rolls for a good price. And it's always good to have that wire around. God, it's useful stuff. Anyways, we always called it haywire. And I don't know why that name stuck, but anyways, rebar tie wire. Welcome to the history you didn't need to know. So the next thing you want to do is you want to get some paper. I'm using wrapping paper because I have a huge collection of this stuff because I paid wrapping paper for next year or the previous year. So I always have it sitting around. And now you want to crunch it up like so. Not perfectly, but a little bit as almost like a long paper sausage. The next thing you want to do is you can see at the top of this wire that I bent it a little bit. You want that bend to be going back and forth up the middle like that. And right at the end here is where we're going to start doing the actual, it goes up a bit. But right at the end of that twist is where we're going to start tying everything to it. So this is just typical painter's tape. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and of course it's not going to cooperate with me. We're going to take this as a start. There we go. Get rid of that. Make it stick to my hands. Now we're going to take this and we're going to start just a little bit down from where it terminates on that actual stuff. Go like that. We're going to take just a little piece of tape and we're going to wrap it right around there. Nice and snug-like. By all means, it doesn't have to be perfect, and in reality, the less perfect it is, the better. Okay, just going to get that started again. Now, what I like to do is I like to wrap this around, going down, so it holds onto that wire. Now, when you get down here, you want at least, on a good time, about 2.5, 3 inches exposed. And the reason for that is, if not, you have nothing to connect it to your main vine with. So once again, we're just going to take some tape. We're going to wrap it around all cozy-like, snug it up, and that'll get our 2 ends done. And then using your tape, the rest of your tape, get the wide stuff because it makes this job easy. I start at about a 45-degree angle and get some in the way there. Just 1 second. And then just working it down at a nice long angle. You want to make sure you have overlap though, but I really like the way this makes the vine look. Of course, it's not perfect for outside because, well, it's paper tape, but once this stuff is bound to each other, you end up with the Christmas wrap gives it the base, and then just it allows it to still be formed and kind of textured to where you want it. Now, this part is a little bit fun, so I'm going to do it, and hopefully it turns out on the camera. Taking your leaf, and then taking your now wrapped branch, you want it to come up, and you want to connect it just, let's see if I can get a little bit closer here. You want to connect it just above where you won't see that wire. In reality, you could go up to about there, because then you really won't see it. Now, if you have a silicone baking mat or something along those lines, it's made out of silicone, it'll help here a ton, because if not, you're going to be going, ooh, that's bloody hot. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put down a really good puddle of silicone, good gosh, of hot glue all along here. And you go, oh God. So now if you don't have your lovely silicone mat, this is where it gets a bit hard. But since I do have my silicone mat, I just take that, I put it over my hot glue, and then gently push the whole thing down. And now it just becomes a waiting game. So I'll be right back. All right, so once this is cooled, note, you're still going to feel the hot glue through here, so if you need to wear gloves, do so. But you can feel the temperature of the hot glue through the silicone. And then what we're going to do is you can check every once in a while by just lifting the corner. And you'll see that as it gets done, you end up with that wire perfectly encapsulated within the actual hot glue. And then the whole thing attached to the leaf. And now we can bend the leaf. I'm going to zoom out here again. Now you can bend the leaf stem however you want to make it fit where you're going to go do it. That's what's great about this, is it is a completely posable pumpkin vine. Now, you also have the ability now to go here and you can bend the leaf. So if you want to add even more character to certain parts of it, you can, and you end up with a really cool looking leaf. Now, it's up to you if you want to go add some coloring to this. You can do some spray paint black just around the base here to give it some depth. But for the most part, this should work, and in your actual finished product, this really does sit well. And now you see here, this is what we're going to be using to stab into the vine to attach it all. Anyways, I'm going to now go grab the wire again and a whole bunch of wrapping paper, and we're going to talk about the vine. Now, we're going to repeat the process for the vine that we did with the leaf. And it's just going to be a bit longer and just takes a bit more time. So I find that when I use the wrapping paper, I like to, because especially the one with the measurements on the back, I like to go about 5 inches, and then we're going to use this and we're going to crumple it all up. So just give me a second. Okay, once you have your paper, all I do is I spin it as I crumple it. So I end up with, you know, it having a bit more strength on the paper. And then once you're to there, we're just going to go through and we're going to wrap it. The tighter you wrap it, the thicker your vine's going to be. The longer you wrap it, the finer it's going to be. So you got to pick on what vine you're doing and what you want it to look like to get the right size and the feel. And even then, vary it as you go. Change on how far you're doing it. God, that looks like some sort of weird Christmas thing. So you can use newspaper for this as well. Pretty much any paper will do. I had wrapping paper around, so that's what I ended up doing. So from there, you'll do another piece. You'll connect it here. And the reason I tape it is when you're taping, and if you don't tape these two ends down, it becomes a nightmare because this paper wants to become unbound and it makes a mess. Anyways, enjoy me wrapping this up. So here we go. We got the finished pumpkin vine, and you can make this as long or as short as you want. If you end up making it long and then want to make it longer, you can always take this end as you get to it, bend it over till you get that loop. Do the same thing with the other side, loop it, crimp it with the pliers, and then just tape over it like you would normally. It may cause a little bit of a weird hinge at that point. So the other option you have is to actually wind these into each other so there's a bit more strength there. It's not a big deal no matter how you cut it. So the last step we're going to have to do now is the detail, curly, the little vines that start to grow. We'll do that right away. See you in a moment. Now the vines are very, very simple on how we finish them off here. These little tiny curly vines, what I like to do is I take a piece of tape, put it at the tip to cover that metal top, roll this through, roll it through, tip the top over, and just kind of do your best to bind that top so it is just a green piece. Then we grab our tape, no extra wrapping paper. Once again, if you want to, you can. But if not, all you do is you just take this this masking tape and work it around however long. I've got a bit of a curve there. There we go. Work it around and make it however long you want your little extra vine to be. So I'm just going to finish this off. Just give me So here's your vine, and once again, you want to leave about 1.5 to 2 inches at the end here. And look at that, it's trying not to focus easier anymore. Now, this allows you to take it, once again, since there's a wire inside, you can take it, wrap it around your finger to give it that vine look. So it looks like one of the growing vines on the pumpkin stem. Now, how do we combine this all together? So once again, we're going to just quickly grab a piece of tape. And this is where you get to make this vine however you want it. And this is the benefit of this, is you can add and change it as much as you want. So all you do is, because there's wrapping paper inside of here, you take your leaf and you push it down vertically. And what will happen is it'll go into the vine and into the wrapping paper. It'll give you a place, so you come up about 1/2 inch to 1 inch after that joint, because you want them to hold to each other. You take it, you spin the joint, get it all pushed down nicely into the center, and just like that, you now have the leaf coming off of the vine. And this leaf can now be adjusted however you want based on where your vine is. And then you can, if you end up with bigger kinks in your actual leaf pattern, you can fix them. And once again, you want to add in some detail of the curl. Just be careful when you put this in, because you don't want to come through the other side and hit your hand. This is a bit long on this one, but that's okay. We're going to do that. We're going to come up just a tiny bit here, pull it around, wrap it, and done. So that is the basis of how you go about making a nice big pumpkin vine. And you can make this and scale it however big you want, depending on what you're doing. And the final result turns out really good. It looks even better when it gets into a little bit of a lit scenario. Like this is bright daylight. If it looks good now, it'll look amazing later. Anyways, I'm going to go continue making a whole bunch of leaves and a whole bunch of everything else, and I'll be back to show you the final vine. See you in a whole
And this finishes our pumpkin vine. I had a ton of fun with this. I always do with most of the props that I build. Sometimes they get a little bit grindy, but I don't know. This one I enjoyed. And this one you can scale as long or as short or as big or as small as you want to. It is 100% up to you. Have fun with it, as I always say with all of my props. Just a quick note that one of the things I did extra is I use the wood burning knife to put some holes into these leaves, just to give them that extra little bit of realism. As far as you go, it's up to you. And if you don't have access to all of these fun toys that I use, which is not a big, you can use a pen and it'll come out very similar to this. Won't be exact, but you know, if you don't have access to the tools, a pair of scissors and a marker will do this the same. You still need the hot glue gun, so sorry about that. Regardless, I hope you all had fun hanging out with this completely strange and crazy prop that I always have fun building. And a big thanks to my subscribers, a big thanks to my viewers, my patrons, and the donkey named Elvis, who sends me comments all the time. And just kidding. I do read all the comments you do send, and I do enjoy getting all the pictures of the props that you build. I might not respond to them right away, but I look at every single one as they come into my inbox. And I really appreciate you sending them along. They look fantastic. Like the gentleman who sent me the cannon that he was commenting on didn't look as good as mine. That cannon looked freaking amazing, and it turned out so awesome. And what was funny is in that video you mentioned that the balance of the cannon was wrong. I never mentioned that in my cannon I have to throw a 5-pound weight in the back corner of it to make it level out. So regardless, it's not just you, it's my cannon as well. I just neglected to mention that little factoid. Anyways, how's that for a deviation? I hope you have fun. Thanks for hanging out, and check out my next video, which is coming up, which will be a 9 3/4 sort of video. Anyways, talk to you later all. Have a good one.